Read. One year ago, on Jesus' lips, I put your A&D ointment. This year, I went back to the basilica to touch his lips again. Jesus in his mother's arms, the sculpted Pietà. But the basilica had been renovated. A rectangle of neon lime green light around the altar. Racks of push-button faux candles. The room of saints cleaned, cleared out. The Pietà nowhere to be seen. Let's pray, said Audrey. But the throng pushing singles, fives, and 20s into the hands of St. Francis, next to the sparrow, and up the sleeve cuffs of St. Anthony, into the slit in the coin box next to La Madonna di Carmene's feet, was too loud and conversational. I couldn't focus, I couldn't pray. I looked up at the ceiling murals. St. John the Baptist stood next to Jesus in the Jordan River. The angel Gabriel knelt his annunciation to teenage Mary. And over the altar was Mary with the sun just behind her. And she was handing the brown scapula to the crescent moon. On the way out of church, I had to go to the bathroom. There was a line that formed into the hallway. And right outside the bathroom, guess what? The Pietà. That's where they put the Pietà. But it was too high up to touch Jesus' lips. All I could reach was his feet. Mary gazed down at Jesus toward the brown wooden bathroom door, where there was a plastic sign that said, lavatory. I felt Mary's look of pity on all of us. All of us. Hard candy, caregiving, mourning, and stage light. In a double book with pitch Roll Yaw, out from Guernica Editions, 2018. Edited by Michael Marola with a gorgeous book design by David Morato. And I'm Annie Lanzillotto, the author. This book is organized back to back and upside down to each other, so the two books meet in the middle in a gallery of spiral poetry. Spiral poems work from the inside out, spiritually, and you have to read these like this. So you got to turn the book. And it's all about the disorientation in the body that I felt grieving my mother. Swirl, soul, up into the night, where flying its own realm, I haven't been empty enough to dream or wander. I sit here now with paper and pen, like I did in Catholic school on Zerilli-Marimò Avenue, focused on completing the task and staying within the lines and making marks with ink on the printed page, the blank space here without you. So that's how you read the spiral poems. The first book, Hard Candy, is about my caregiving with my mom, mourning, and then getting back on stage, in the months afterward. And Pitch Roll Yaw is organized into 14 stations, and each station begins with what I call a seesaw poem, which is one line across the page. And it brings up, when I was a kid on a seesaw, that energy of the fulcrum between two people and how the meaning in poetry of the line changes by the time you get to the end of the line. So when you read it, you'll see. But I'm going to read a beginning of one of the poems in Pitch Roll Yaw. It's called Butch for Hire. If I was a little old lady, I'd want a butch caregiver. Butches are vigilant as German shepherds, sleep with their ears cocked, on call 24/7, follow you to the bathroom in the middle of the night, clear your path. You are queen. A butch will tuck you in at night with a well-spread blanket, say prayers in whatever language you speak, hug you, rub your back and feet, keep your toes from curling up on one another, straighten each toe, kiss you on the forehead, get up the moment you open your eyes, cover your shoulders when your blanket wanders low at 2:43 a.m. Offer the strong crook of an arm for you to latch onto, be your walker, tote your oxygen tank, support you out to the car, help you breathe. Open the windows, open the jars, take out trash, coax you to eat, make coffee, toast your raisin bread, close the windows, surprise you with early morning pancakes, organize your meds, adjust the BiPAP so it doesn't cut the roof of your nose, beg your permission, then make the decision to call the ambulance when you say, just hold me, I don't want to go anywhere. All right, you can read the rest. Hard candy, Pitch Roll Yaw. Enjoy. Read. She asked to go to China to serve the poor, but the Pope said, I'll send you where they need you more. Go to the US of A. Help those Italian-American immigrants and all the wretched strays. Go to the US of A. It was 1889 when she landed in New
Signore e
York.
signori, buonasera.
English.
Benvenuti alla Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò della New York University. Welcome everybody. If some of you still thought that a poetry reading was about stiff people wearing black turtlenecks and reading with long pauses, think again. This is not what you're going to get tonight, and this is not what you're going to get ever when Annie Lanzillotto is involved. And before the official introduction of Annie and her guests, I would like just to, from a very personal point of view, to welcome Annie here very, very warmly. She's one of the most generous and giving persons I've ever met. She has been here so many times. She has been here on this stage so many times to support, present, introduce the work of many of her colleagues. And finally, we have a chance to give her center stage and to present her own work tonight here. And I couldn't be more happy and more pleased about this. Thank you, Annie. And now the official introduction. Annie Lanzillotto, 100% Barese Bronx. Her grandparents were born in Acquaviva delle Fonti, Cassano delle Murge, and Bitetto. She's the author of the book we are presenting tonight, and we just saw this beautiful book trailer that she produced, Hard Candy, Caregiving, Mourning, and Stage Light, and Pitch Roll Yaw. And we're going to talk a lot about this book, and Annie's going to read about it. Annie also narrated her audiobooks and composed the leitmotifs for Audible.com. She's the singer-songwriter of the albums Never Argue with a Jackass, Swamp Juice, Yankee with a Southern Peasant Soul, Carry Me Coffee, 11 Recitation, and Blue Pill. Her performance artworks have been commissioned by Dancing in the Streets, Dixon Place, Franklin Furnace, and have received grants from the Rockefeller Foundation, MAP Fund, and Puffin Foundation. Lanzillotto was awarded the New York Foundation for the Arts Fellowship for nonfiction writing and multidisciplinary performance. She was a Rockefeller Foundation Next Generation Leadership Fellow. And tonight, to share the stage with Rachel are the people who wrote the introductions to the two collection of poems that you saw in the book. And we have John Gennari. whose family hails from Cortivo and Marola in the Veneto region in the north of Italy. John is professor of English and critical race and ethnic studies at the University of Vermont and the author of Flavor and Soul, Italian America at its African American Edge with the University of Chicago Press, and Blowing Hot and Cool, Jazz and Its Critics with the University of Chicago Press. That was awarded the ASCAP Deems Taylor Award for Excellence in Music Criticism and the John Cabot Award for the Best Book in American Culture. Kathleen Zamboni-McCormick's grandparents are from Genova, so it's like northeast, northwest, and the south with Annie and the Barese tradition. She's a professor of literature and writing at SUNY Purchase College and the author of, listen to this, Dodging Satan, My Irish-Italian, Sometimes Awesome, but Mostly Creepy Childhood, which was awarded the Bronze Medal 2017 Illumination Award for Catholic Books, a Gold Ivy for Religion and Spirituality, a Silver Ivy for Humor, a Bronze Elite Book Award in Humor, and was selected as Forward Review finalist in Humor and Religion. Two things that are normally quite difficult to combine, and she did it. And since the panel of people that we have is quite extraordinary, I would like to leave the floor, the stage, the microphone, and everything else to Annie Lanzillotto and her guest. But before, we have another video, and then we go live, right? And by the way, we are live on Facebook. If you care to tell people that you're here, what you're doing, what you're listening to, go ahead and do it. Thank you very much.
She got an order of protection. What else could she do? The only thing she could do is leave the country, go underground. So we can't find her. She could go to a shelter. Now, why would she want to go to a shelter if she's in a house? How long could you stay in the shelter?
Well, I just felt like after you survived and been through something, there should be something you could be able to tell the next person.
If she would have spoken to me, there still isn't anything I could tell her. She did everything she could. Relax your hand. My husband was a Marine, and when we did have a number of very beautiful years, unfortunately, the war did affect him. He was a Marine on Okinawa, and he became very, very violent and abusive. And it was very traumatic for the children and me. And fortunately, I realized that there were many, many issues naturally. But one thing that did help me was that I always enjoyed different colors and paintings. And I found that when I saw colors that I really loved and enjoyed, it just seemed to embody me and just completely remove me from all my tension, and it just made me, it just relaxed me completely. See, the first coat you always do in the middle of the nail, so that if there's excess, it goes off to the sides. It doesn't go all over the cuticle. The first time I did a manicure in school, and they said, cut all the dead skin off, I cut off the girl's wart. That she had to go to the nurse. It was in second term high school. This was a beauty culture course, Jane Addams. It was in the East Bronx, between Tinton and Union Avenue. And it was very difficult to get into the school. Oh boy. Relax your hand. Thank God today they have more organizations that veterans are able to attend and to help the family situations. And that's the important message today, to look into every single avenue of anything that could possibly help you, your family, or the veteran who suffered, and in order to keep the family together and stabilize. And every day I thank Our Lady of Mount Carmel, my patron saint, who was with me the day I fell out of the window when I was 2.5 years old. And thank God I'm walking and talking, I'm knitting, and I'm enjoying life to the fullest. Just remember that there are women's shelters, there's the NOW program, there are many, many programs that were not available to me in my day, which would have been a tremendous help. The main thing is to have support when you're going through such a difficult time, lack of funds in order to get a decent lawyer, and be able to protect your children and get them out of that environment immediately. And every day I put on my lipstick, pink lightning, and get out of the kitchen.
I make these things.
How do I make these things?
Yeah.
Aunt Annie takes me to the store where they sell wool. And I say, I like that color for Elizabeth, and I like that color for Caroline.
Mommy, how long? I don't have it like
You have pink buttons too.
I don't make
How do I make them? You want them knit?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. With the knitting needles, you do 1, 2, 3, one at a time, and you knit. Purl and knit. Knit and purl.
And that's how you make them.
That's how I make them.
Did you sky red eye sad run cry red sky cry red sky. Did you see the sun, her sun? Did you see the red sun cry red sky? Did you see sun, her sun? Did you see the red sun cry red sky? Sad
Let's have house lights so we can seat everybody, Julie. All right, we got 2 seats here. Raise your hand if there's a seat next to you. Rosie, Maureen, come on down. There's 2 seats up here, first row. That's fine. Perfect. That's perfect. Okay, you 2 can sit down. Thank you. No. Just pull this out. Liz, do you need a seat or you can stand? Elise, there's a seat up front. Or right here. Benita, raise your hand. Emily, I need help. Is that over? I need this on my music stand.
Okay.
It's right there. Well, before we do anything, the man who saved my life is in the audience. And you're lucky if you were born in a time where there's medicine available and legislation that approves you to get the medicine, and if there happens to be a genius of a doctor that you intersect with. So if you're a patient, the laws are good so you get the medicine, and then the doctor shows up and he says things like, don't worry about money ever. So this guy was on the front lines of what used to be called the Big C. This is Sanford J. Kempen, my doctor who's now gonna check my neck and make sure I'm okay. Come on, stand up. Now, question for you. Where did you put my spleen? You have it home? Is there any way I could put it back? All right. All honor, I love you. Thank you for being here. Susan, thank you. Thank you, Emily. The rest of you are very important, but, you know.
You have your priorities.
You know, just so, you know, whoever read Ella's for Lion, a lot of people asked me when I dressed up as the doctor to sneak into the tumor board meeting. He was the doctor. And when he saw me dressed up, if you remember, he said to me, sit in the back. Rose. Yeah? Where's Rose?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right? I once had a mama. Nicole, get everyone clapping. I once had a mama. She was known as Sweet Lily, prettiest girl in the Bronx. As a kid, she was crippled. You better stay up here. Yeah, stay up here. All right, I need water.
All right.
Come on, Vanita. Come on, Vanita. Get up, Vanita. Get up, Nicole. Come on, everybody, up. Woo! Hold on. Keep going, Nicole. I once had a mama. She was known as Sweet Lily, prettiest girl in the Bronx. I need some hard candy. Who's got some? I got it. Now, the thing about hard candy, where do you see hard candy in public? Doctor's office. Where else? Banks. Druggist. Where else? Concert halls, coffee tables, funeral homes.
Yeah.
What? Grandmas. If your life is like that every day, the stress you need in funeral homes, banks, hospitals, then what do? You fill your pocketbook with hard candy. So Alin will start now, is gonna pass around my mother's pocketbook filled with hard candy that Alin hunted for. And Kathleen will pass around my Prada pocketbook, which is written about in this book. It came from Acquaviva dell'Elefante. And please take all the hard candy you want. All right, we'll try this again.
Too hot?
No.
Okay.
Ha! I once had a mama. She was known as Sweet Lily. Woo, no. We'll do Q&A first.
You want to share?
You all know. Gina.
Get another babe up here. Gina.
Well, this is life with one vocal cord. This is the radiation fried. I got one paralyzed vocal cord and one vocal cord, so when I get excited, that's what happens. But Gina's got a sexy voice, so if I can't read, she's gonna read. I'm gonna try this again. Gina, just be ready. All right.
I got you.
Okay, we'll try again.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try again. Any questions before I begin?
Professor, what's your favorite kind of hard candy?
Honest candy. Do you have the clip? Can you clip this? What's the question?
What's the name of this song?
Lily, oh Lily. Thanks. Oh, whatever it is.
Higher?
Oh, Monica, you look great.
She does.
I didn't recognize you. All right. Sorry, I can't see you, Maria, over here. All right. I once had a mama. Stay here.
Yeah, you want some back? She's got her teeth up.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
All right, give me a poem. I'll read it instead.
Yeah.
It's all here.
Oh, okay. You could do it after, if you want to take a break.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay. And now, Kathleen.
I know, right?
I'll knock it over.
Sure.
No. First.
I have to start in a different place from where I was going to start. The crowd hasn't been very excited yet tonight. So I wanted to just say, before I start my official talk, which I'll probably cut a lot of, that I think there's a special kind of power that certain literature has. It usually happens to me when I teach James Joyce's Ulysses, and I warn my students that all sorts of coincidences are going to happen. And they do. But hard candy has got that power. And this blister pack was put here for a reason other than hard candy. 2 weeks ago to the day, I'm going to Chicago. It's all right. The guy next to me seemed fine. They announced, stop with your electrics. We start circling. He gets nervous. He pulls out a blister pack of gum and hand sanitizer. I am at this point reading Gum is Not Food from Hard Candy. Hand sanitizer, one piece of gum. Hand sanitizer, another piece of gum. By the time we land, no hand sanitizer left, no gum. I get up to get my stuff out, no gum in his mouth. Wow. I wanted to say, look, this could cause intestinal blockage. But I didn't. Then, on an extremely weirder and sadder note, yesterday, I thought I would make some notes on a small pad of paper so it would be convenient to fit in my overpack bag. And I'm making notes about Annie and John and things I want to ask them. And I suddenly realize that there's writing a few pages in. It's my mother's handwriting, recording her blood pressure in relationship to her water pills at 2001. My mother died March 7th, 2009. I thought, man, Rachel ain't the only one looking over us. So, to all our moms, but particularly to the mother-daughter relationship, I'm going to say some of what I thought I was going to say. When I read Alice for Lion, and some of you may have read what I wrote about it, without knowing about the Madonna of the nail polish, I felt that the book was filled with color. It's all right. Watch it. And I likened it to the stained glass windows of an Italian cathedral. And when I read Hard Candy, I'm back in that cathedral. And I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the cathedral before I talk about some other aspects of Hard Candy, and John talks about the other half of the book. I'm not going to be that funny, because the book is very moving. So, you have to picture the first window. There's a large double rainbow. Its primary background is red sky. There are skeins of yarn, hats and sweaters, knit and pearl, pearl and knit, shadowing each color of the rainbow. Hard candies are in this stained glass over here. A whole stained glass window filled with hard candies, yellow lemon drops, yolk butterscotch balls, dark brown Italian imported espresso candy, lighter brown coconut and cocoa, orange tangerine, red raspberry, strawberry, cherry, berry, striped peppermint, red rust anise, green spearmint, and eucalyptus. Now there's a translucent window opposite the hard candy window, but you have to go around the cathedral in order, so you have to wait to find out what that one's about. Perhaps what's most startling in this new addition to the cathedral is the windows that are clear. And that's because they're dedicated to the saint of crystalline. Because like the BVM herself, who can one day be Our Lady of Medjugorje, on another day be Our Lady of Fatima, Rachel herself can appear in many guises. So she's the Madonna of the nail polish, but she's also the saint of crystalline. Because when she cleaned the environment, she also cleaned the soul. Everything that's poetic in here is a quotation, but I'm not going to be doing air quotes all the time, you're going to know. So here in the window are depicted Saint Crystalline's cleaning miracles. This part shows the disappearance of sock stains. And here are hundreds of shining tubs, porcelain sinks, toilets, tile walls, window ledges, all white in the nooks, no dark bits there. If you are really still, you can hear the high pitch of cleaned glass to a white vinegar shine. Next is the slightly translucent window I mentioned earlier. That represents saliva. The saliva made when devotees of St. Crystalline suck on a hard candy, which are always in place on her altar in many fancy candy dishes. A small intercession to her enables those hard candies to cure you of nausea, car sickness, poverty, hunger, sadness, grief, a cough, stuffed nose, dry mouth, anxiety, lonesomeness, all the bitterness. They take that life taste out of your mouth and get your juices going, because Saint Crystalline knows that life is a little less hard when sucking on a hard candy. But now the clear glass becomes somehow darker. Here are faintly outlined IV drip bags, oxygen, needles of medicine. Over there is a perpetually steamed up nebulizer window where clouds of medicine billow. This one used to be translucent because it represents St. Crystalline's breath. Don't be overwhelmed by the huge area symbolizing the permanent wave that was St. Crystalline's life. She wasn't. Now, as we're leaving the cathedral, look at the round script at eye level. It says, "See you later." Okay, we're going to leave the cathedral for a few minutes. In so much of hard candy, there's a physical intermingling between Annie and Rachel. Annie likens their mother-daughter relationship to Demeter and Persephone, acknowledging that the distinction has frequently blurred over the years. Daughter repeatedly finds herself holding mother, rocking her. Annie writes of Rachel that on a number of occasions in recent years she's introduced me as her mother. And as mother is dying in as she leaves her body, daughter feels like something is being pulled out of me, like I am having an abortion. The collection is punctuated in both the poetry and the short prose by catalogs of living and dying. And I just want to give you a little feel for them, and then I'll wrap it up. But every catalog, and John's going to really talk about this in much more theoretical detail, every catalog is like a hologram, occupying both the epic and the everyday. Immense bounty and the infinitesimal, and then they reverse. So the list of names is most immediately recognizable as being in the epic catalog tradition, but unlike the begats of the Bible, which grow tedious, these lists embedded in tangible history surprise and fascinate. In her blue, we witness the multiplication of Lucy's and Rachel's. The catalogs of living are also dominated by food, and the significance of food reaches epic proportion by the intricacy of preparation, heightens appetites, sheer delight in eating, such abundance that then can be contained in the most minute flake of Parmesan cheese. But we don't stop there. The flake swells into a huge cornucopia, the Parmigiano globe we live in, the sustenance and the essential necessity of the healing family meal. I'm just going to mention a few of the catalogs of death because we want to keep Annie's throat in good order. But the catalogs of death contrast the expected with the real.
Kathleen, there's a seat up here. Come on up front.
Sure, absolutely. Especially if it's another Kathleen, she'll sit right next to me.
She doesn't want to sit?
All right. Daughter is deafened by the dense silence caused without mother's heart pumping. As death is totally different from what our prayers say. The prayers say now and at the hour of our death, amen. But death, it turns out, is instant. Sim sang "We Are Blood" ironically contrasts how the expression "blood is thicker than water" always makes thick blood seem good until the first embolism. Similarly, in "Rose Petals Fall," mother's having a big heart is a strength, a gift, a necessity for the family until from a medical, a purely physical standpoint, a big heart is a failing heart. I think that most of us have probably heard part of Annie's album and know that she began her process of resurfacing on July 13th, 2016, the night of her mother's death, when she looked up for her mother in a clouded sky, then turned onto the Williamsburg Bridge, and there was that blue, those blue eyes looking right down at her. By day 58, Annie is beginning to accept the absence, and in two of my, I just have to read these lines because I love them so much, favorite lines from the collection on the paradox of what it is she's accepting. She says, "The endless hours, or the fact that ours will end." We appreciate the craft and its crafty ways whereby grief, when allowed to be metamorphosed into poetry, loves and slowly coaxes the artist back to life. Now, Annie and I first met about 25 years ago at a conference when her mother had just had a AAA dissection and she thought she was going to lose her then. And she asked me how she should say goodbye to her. Now, my mother, whether it was my first marriage, my first day of kindergarten, she always blew me a kiss. So I somewhat cavalierly said, "Blow your mother a kiss." I am honored that Annie remembers that conversation and tells me that she actually engages in the practice of blowing her mother a kiss and that it helps her to have joy in eternity and to let go. Blowing a kiss always symbolized for me a little act of my mother's letting go. And you know the rest.
Blow me a kiss. All right, I'm going to read a little bit. Let's try that. Let's try it over here at the podium where I never go. Gum is not food. 340 days out. A knock at the door. I'm used to people coming and going by now. Visiting nurse. Ah! Water, water, water. Ha!
It's a really hot mic, so you don't have to talk about it.
Thank you, Emily, Audrey, Sophia, Gina, everybody. Elise, Megan. All right. Is there any more light over here, Julian? So I could read? All right. Gum is not food, 340 days out. A knock at the door. I'm used to people coming and going by now. Visiting nurses, social workers, case managers, psych consult, physical therapist, oxygen tank supplier, long-term care supervisor, spring water deliverer. This one came without notice, just appeared at the door, dressed all in white. Are you the nurse? Yeah, she nodded sweetly, popping gum. Come on in, I'm Annie, the daughter. My mom, Rachel's in the living room. What's your name? Darnell. She puts her bag on a chair, takes her jacket off. I mechanically tell her, wash your hands. And we got paper towels, liquid soap dispenser, and hand sanitizer in the bathroom over there. My mother and I say this almost simultaneously. Make sure she washes her hands. Make sure she washes her hands. Marching orders to anyone who enters the apartment. My mother listens for how long people have the bathroom water on. Is it enough to thoroughly wash hands? She'll comment later. Was there a paper towel in the bathroom trash? Proof that she washed her hands. I hand her a box of yellow flu masks and blue gloves, which are seated on the snack table when you walk in. I notice she has no sinus congestion. I quickly surmise how she's breathing. She's okay. So I let her come into the living room. Darnell says, do you have a blood pressure cuff? I say, yeah, and I hand it to her. And she proceeds to wrap the blood pressure cuff around my mother's arm. Darnell pumps the cuff, looks at her watch, and repeats this until it's clear to my mother she doesn't know how to take blood pressure. My mother tells her, you are not a nurse. No, I'm the aide, she says slowly and sweetly, popping gum. Hi, Neil, I can't believe you're here. I thought you were in the Midwest. All right. Darnell's hours are 2 to 6. One night, we offer her a bowl of chicken soup. It's time for my mother's dinner. Chicken soup is like our elixir. Now, we're not comfortable eating in front of anybody without offering them some too. So we share what we have. So now I'm cooking for the aide. So we know by now that Darnell has 3 children down south, and she's up north to get some education so she could go back down south and make a higher salary to support her 3 kids. So my mother and I take it on ourselves to educate her. We're sitting at the table. I dish out the chicken soup, and Darnell is chewing gum. She continues to chew the gum while she eats the chicken soup. Now, this breaks all the cardinal rules of Italian eating. This is like an imprisonable offense. My mother and I feel stunned and completely nauseated. You gotta spit your gum out, I tell her. I'm cheeking it. I'm cheeking it, she says. I said, you're what? I'm cheeking it. Huh? It's on the side of my mouth and my teeth. What? Now I'm thinking, this woman's raised 3 children. I said to her, no, you can't eat like that. Mom says, what's the matter with you? You can't eat chicken soup with gum in your mouth. Okay, Donnell says, if you say so, Miss Rachel. After a couple more spoonfuls of soup, I hand her a napkin. Spit it out. I swallowed it. You what? It's food. Mom says gum is not food. Look it up on that fancy phone of yours. You taught your kids to swallow gum? Yeah, it's food. Gum is not food. Where do you think gum goes? I don't know, the stomach takes care of it. It's not digestible, I tell her. It's not food. You gotta spit it out. Gum is not biodegradable. She giggles. We swallow gum all the time. You let your kids swallow gum? Yes, it's food. So Mom says, Google it. Gum is not food. I try to help her out. You know, I learned this at Brown. This is what I learned. I guess it's made from trees, I reason, but there's no way you could eat it. I start trying to think 360 around the issue. But at the table, it's impossible to continue eating chicken soup. Her shift is over, and she's getting her coat on to leave the house. And my mother and I make her promise to look into what happens when you swallow gum routinely for years. When she's out the door, my mother says to me, how do people survive? It's common sense. Gum is not food. Now, me and my mother have a story to tell. Having all these strangers in the house is useful that way. We get the perk of having a common source of aggravation. It unites us and makes us laugh. And we get the bonus of taking our mind completely off of our mutual breathing problems. The gum conversation continues for months. You can read the rest of that later. Oh my God, you know who just walked in? All right, now, wait a second. If anyone knows anything about the problems in the medical care system in this country, one of the problems is if you got the wrong people on the shift and it's at night and the pharmacy's closed, you're not going home with your medicine. Unless at Sloan Kettering, who's the pharmacist? Genevieve! Genevieve Laurent! Jenny also, she got me and my mother medicine when we lost all hope and the aggravation was gonna make us forget about it. Do you remember Sanford Kempen from back in the 80s? Jenny, Dr. Kempen, hematology? Give him a hug. Do you need a seat? Jenny, do you need a seat? All right. All right, I'll read something else. Since Kathleen referenced this, Sima Song, Chimichang, we are blood. Our sap and blood flow thick and sticky. I can hear our Bare's ancestors yell, Chimichang, Chimichang, Simisang, Simisang. We are blood. Chimichang. In the wind between Grandma's peach tree branches, I inject Mom subcutaneously with Lovenox, 80 milligrams in 8 milliliter syringes. Her blood stopped flat. I must thin this blood, thin this blood, thin the blood, thin the blood. Fluidicamente Duchang, with each shot in the side of a pinch of her belly from where I came from. Familiar words, thicken words I've heard all my life. We are blood. Blood is thicker than water. The ring of the Baresi yell, Chimichang, Chimichang, Chusi Changame. We are blood. We are blood. You are my blood, Nicole. Mom's blood stuck, refused to flow. Chingase, litro duchang, 5-6 liters of blood. Coagulo, 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 coagulates, coagulates, coagulates. Stuck in veins, blood. Deep stops in legs and lungs, blood. Though our hearts thirst still. Holy cards, 9 days left. After funerals, I open my mother's replica antique wooden box phone and add the next holy card to the deck she keeps there. Here are the ancestors. A card for each one like their rookie baseball card, now rookie angel card. The cards have pictures of saints and angels, and on the back, prayers. The only individual details are the person's name and birth date / death date. It's wild seeing who died within weeks of one another, strange groupings that might never have happened while they were alive. Very few of my friends are in this deck of cards. My dead friends didn't have lavish funerals with holy card expenses, coffins, plots, the whole 9 yards. Put me out with the trash, Tony told me. I make them by hand now, a holy card for each soul missing in the deck. I don't wonder anymore why my mother kept these cards, and all together in her old antique telephone, this wooden box hanging on the paneled living room wall with a black pear-shaped beaker on a cord to hold up to your ear and one to talk into, and 2 round brass bells set into the wooden face of the telephone like big owl eyes. 2 round brass bells that never ring. Her telephone to the dead, we call it. I flip through the deck, read the names, examine the dates, look at the saints, see who has the best pictures with gold trim, wonder who's next. My mother and I sit on the porch through sundowns. We wait for death to swoop down on us like a bird of prey. I'm going to try the song again. All right, Emily, can you help me?
Yeah.
Just can you put Lily O Lily on the thing? I'm going to try to stand up. Can you do it? I once had a mama. She was known as Sweet Lily, prettiest girl in the Bronx. 2 pages. Okay. As a kid, she was crippled, so she fell. As a kid, she was crippled, 'cause she fell out a window, but her soul, you know, was... Can you open this? I want to thank my sister and brother-in-law for coming. Give them a hand, Rosemary. Maybe I try a different song. Maybe my mother don't want me to sing this song. Let me try this one. Can I put this one on the thing?
With this
Where
one?
will I go? Yeah. I'll try one more time. We'll give it one more try. What are you gonna do? Hi, Joe. Softly. Okay. If all I know is that you're not here tomorrow, where will I go? If all I know is that you're not here tomorrow, where will I go? Where will I go? Where will I go? Where, oh where, oh where, oh where? Want to sing with me? If all I know is that you're not here tomorrow, where will I go? If all I know is that you're not here tomorrow, where will I go? Where will I go? Where will I go? Where, oh where, oh where, oh where? Take your drink. Professore John Gennari, who my mother had a big crush on, and you'll see why when he talks. And you should all talk to each other tonight. That's my biggest happy thing I hear is when people are in the audience, they say, I want them to talk to everyone in that room. Look at this room.
I'm going to try to use my phone to illuminate my my book. Is that going to work? I can't tell you how proud I am to be part of this this event and this book. Thank you, Annie. The whole of Annie Lanzillotto's remarkable multidisciplinary oeuvre, I never know how to pronounce that word. You know what I'm... Oeuvre.
You want someone to hold the light?
Or I can get some better...
Emily, you hold the light for John.
It's not up here.
I'm not used to having a retinue like you. Okay. The whole of this remarkable body of work, poems, essays, memoir, performance art, music, short documentary film, may best be reckoned as an evolving survivalist treatise. A practical guide and philosophical reflection on the fragility and tenuousness, and for that very reason, intense ecstasy of life. In Pitch, Roll Yaw, as in all of Annie's work, we bear witness to the ravages of the diseased body, her own, those of dying kin, friends felled by AIDS, and horrendous violence. And yet, paradoxically, there's an extraordinary vitality to this work, a sense of teeming possibility and rapturous overflow, bursting out of even the most dire and gloomy situations. The writing is exhortative, a call to action, a Nietzschean insistence on the pursuit of an ever-ascending mode of existence, a Jamesian will to believe in the infinitely regenerative power of life itself. Ignore the blackened hands of the clock. Inspire children with song and poetry. Read voluminously. Write, create songs. Tend the earth. Garden. Forage. Grow, grow, grow. Listen inside your ears. Commune with the mentally ill, the imprisoned, the dead, the ones without homes. Save all strays. Be useful. The seeming paradox of a survivalist ethos tethered to a life of amplitude and lusty exuberance took root at an early age. On her first day of kindergarten, as Annie narrates in the stunning memoir Ellis for Lion, her father sent her off with these words: "When you sit down in class, make sure you don't sit near the windows. A bullet coming in through the bottom of the window can cause the greatest shrapnel effect." Good for...
But now it's true.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Good for a kid to know. There's a certain exhilaration that comes from being the only kid in the class who knows that the school could blow at any minute. The kid whose father drives the family car like a tank in enemy terrain, cigarette smoke, out double-barreled nostrils, butts flicked at the asphalt to crack into explosions. Joey Lanz is proud of the way Annie attacks a T-bone steak, bone in my mouth and meat drippings all over my hands, while she revels in the way he grinds out his cigarette butt in the meat fat left greasing the plate. This is life lived close to the bone, life lived hungrily through the body's nerve endings. When Lanzi teaches Annie his method for testing battery power, you got to focus the tip of your tongue on the cathode to taste if there's a charge there. He inadvertently trains her to be a lesbian lover of the most sensitive caliber. We laugh at this line, as we often laugh when reading Annie. With pitch roll yaw, the laughter commences at the book's dedication page, where we meet Annie's mother, Raquel Petrozelli-Lanzillotto, the kind of valiant and spunky woman my own mother, an Italian-American of almost exactly the same age and disposition, liked to call a real pip. Here we are amused to learn that Raquel's bucket list consists of just one thing: good Italian bread. The laughter ratchets up with the poem Butch for Hire, where we're informed that a butch woman makes an excellent home care companion. Butches cook and clean as good as any femme. A butch will watch The Price is Right with you. Keep the conversation light. Play cards. Butches do wound care. And best of all, a butch will stuff your peppers. What's uncanny is the sheer incongruity, both tonal and situational, between Annie's language and what that language describes. Just as a kindergarten send-off isn't the usual time for discussion of shrapnel physics, elder care, Annie's of her own dying mother no less, is not the customary occasion for drawl musing on butch excellence. And who could possibly imagine a battery cathode having anything to do with sexual technique? For that matter, who else but Annie to call out another of the audaciously antic items in this present collection writes a poem song called Mother Cabrini Throwdown. More than just mordant wit, such writing betrays the underlying mechanics of this writer's mind, a rare brand of super keen pragmatic intelligence, an ability to size up scenes, situations, problems, and challenges, to capiche, in a word, with stunning acuity. This can be chalked up in part to Annie's jungle survivalist skills, her Bronx street smarts, her paternal training, and constant vigilance. But it also points to something the literary critic Kenneth Burke associated with the very best thought in art, a property he termed perspective by incongruity. Our creative breakthroughs come not by recognizing familiar arrangements and patterns, trained incapacity, Burke called that approach, but rather by pairing up things that are not supposed to go together, the better to see what these things really are and what else they could be. Annie's humor is a blues humor, a tragicomic humor of incongruity that insists on the redemptive possibilities of suffering, the expressive freedom enabled by constraint, the lyricism born of catastrophe, the highest joy wrestled from the deepest sadness. As in the bittersweet bardic tales spun by venerable Mississippi Delta and Chicago bluesmen and women, this humor is clear-eyed and piercing, but never judgmental or self-righteous, never smugly certain of right or wrong, good and bad. The key dynamic here is the play of difference, the generative dialect of opposition, and this is not unrelated to Annie's outsider class, ethnic, and sexual identities. Her masculine femininity, her self-description, writing in Ella's for Lion, of her ball-playing years as a, quote, Bronx Italian dyke who identifies as Thurman Munson, unquote. The New York Puerto Rican poet, the great poet, Orion Noels, nails it when he lauds Annie's, what he calls bold queering of form. I will go further and suggest that Annie's work represents a bold working-class Italian Bronx butch queering of the world. I don't want to shortchange Annie's sexuality, not with her poignant lament in the poem in this collection, The Underfucked. What happened to my one-night stands against bathroom walls and beer tap eyes? More doctors now than lovers' hands. But I will use queering here in the broader sense, inspired by Burke's idea about transformative knowledge and creativity. Queering as the heightened vision, the clearer understanding of what things really are and what they might be, that comes of living with and through incongruity. In Ella's for Lion, some of the funniest and most poignant passages, maybe especially for those of us who were or are first-generation college students, come when Annie arrives at Brown University. My father's into oil and horses, she deadpans, when the research scientist who becomes her mentor asks about her family background. She studies tropical waterborne parasitical disease that eventually takes her to Egypt for field research. Meanwhile, on the home front, Joey Lanz, whose uncredentialed intellect Annie knows to be no less formidable than those of her professors, continues to fix oil burners, wager on the thoroughbreds, and chronicle in a handy breast pocket notebook his battle with my phlegm. What is it with older Italian men and phlegm? For many of her classmates, the Ivy League was the natural expression of class privilege that they never had reason to question. For others, it means the pious pursuit of the American dream, the promise of upward mobility. No doubt the admissions office saw Annie as fitting the latter category. Maybe her family did too, but they had a different way of putting it. Since I got into Brown, she explains, my family treated me like I was made. I would be an earner. I would be protected by being part of an institution, a system, a bigger-than-you place. Never has a truer thing been said about the Ivy League. Stripped of its aura and pretenses, basically, it's a straight-up protection racket. In Ella's for Lion, we learn about Annie's love of flying small planes, bombardier style.
Don't worry about the clock. Just
Okay. The breathtaking rush of a dramatic nosedive, the plane's wings at such an angle that they slice the air backwards. It gives her life the feeling of being in a perpetual bank turn. That feeling intensifies in this collection's title poem, its words gripping the page in the shape of a curving whoosh across the sky. I want to do in my body what I can do in a single-engine Cessna, turn on 3 axes and come out of my skin, pitch, pivot up to the beating white sun, roll, tilt into a bank turn over the ocean rumble, yaw, rotate side to side along the horizon curvature. Images of movement, metamorphosis, transmutation, defiance of time and space snake through these poems. Do not honor time, beat time, to the hoop, to the hoop, to the hoop, run key lines in How to Fast Break. In 10-4, October 4, Annie and a college friend skip their organic chemistry midterm and light out for the territories. 2 spiritual trippers who end up in a Santa Fe prayer mission. We looked up at each other from our textbooks, agreed to take a study break, got in my 64 convertible push-button transmission Dodge Dart with the slant 6 engine, popped our favorite St. Francis cassette in the deck, unhinged the top, and let the driving wind whip it down. We sang and cried in the rich velvet blue night, a smattering of stars overhead. We wanted to feel alive, not stuck in a book. One might say the same of these poems. Such is their aliveness, they seem to liberate themselves from the page and take flight out into the world. For Annie, written language is not inert inscription. Words are breathing, sounding, touching, and moving things. In the 50s and 60s, in this very neighborhood, beat and black arts movement poets privileged live audience and oral performance of the written poem. How you sound, asks Leroy Jones, often in conjunction with jazz, drawing not just on that music's hip rhythms, but also its grounding in call and response, performer-audience connectivity. In recent decades, spoken word performance and slam poetry, allied with hip-hop, have popularized the idea that versifying should be public, performative, and interactive. Annie is down with these practices. She's nothing if not a mesmerizing performer, vigorously engaged in public outreach, inclusivity, interactivity, collaboration, cross-cultural dialogue, and community building. Her verse is musical in the most essential way, the same way in which ancient Mediterranean bards, Scottish and Irish balladeers, African and Caribbean griots, sang their tribe's stories in catching meter and enchanting melody. She's a walking minstrel, a mediator of community speaking and listening, ever involved in activism, protests, occupations, daily struggles of living and surviving in the city. Meanwhile, she continues excavating the remains of her glorious but embattled heritage, an Italian-American culture she fears has forsaken its Italian soul, its ancient wisdom. We've lost the language of sopravvivenza, she laments, italicizing the Italian word for survival, italicizing also the larger historical contours of her survivalist journey. This is also our survivalist journey, and I don't mean just Italian Americans. When Annie nourishes the familiar romance that figures Italy at once as an mother breastfeeding us straight from the earth, and as a culture of surpassing beauty founded on its ethic of dedicated workmanship, she's delivering a universalist manifesto for our time. When she gathers with family and neighbors every September to celebrate the harvest from a tree her grandmother bequeathed by throwing a peach pit out the window, she's outfitting all of us in much-needed equipment for living. This is not winsome nostalgia for a disappearing ethnic identity. This is pragmatic instruction on the practice of survival. This is a Heimlich maneuver to evacuate the toxic garbage in our system. This is knowing how to eat and live with bottom-of-the-pot gusto. You must learn to desire to live more than to die. Take, eat. You must accept it. Take this, bite. Eat everything in the garden. The cherries and the onions, hot peppers at the stem. Everything.
Genevieve, your name's in the book, by the way. I acknowledged some of the pharmacists in the thank yous. No, they're incredible. They just... All right, Butch for Hire. Dedicated for Mary Cufari Capotorto, January 18th, 1924 to December 23rd, 2014. Rosette's mother and Sophia's grandmother, who lived in Pelham Bay in the Bronx. Pelham Parkway, sorry. If I was a little old lady, I'd want a butch caregiver. Butches are vigilant as German shepherds. Sleep with their ears cocked, on call 24/7. Follow you to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Clear your path. You are queen. A butch will tuck you in at night with a well-spread blanket. Say prayers in whatever language you speak. Hug you, rub your back and feet. Keep your toes from curling up on one another. Straighten each toe. Kiss you on the forehead. Get up the moment you open your eyes. Cover your shoulders when the blanket wanders low at 2:43 a.m. Offer the strong crook of an arm for you to latch onto. Be your walker. Tote your oxygen tank. Support you out to the car. Help you breathe. Open the windows. Open the jars. Take out the trash. Coax you to eat. Make coffee. Toast your raisin bread with blackened edges. Close the windows. Deflate and pull out the old catheter. Surprise you with early morning pancakes. Organize your meds. Adjust the BiPAP so it doesn't cut the roof of your nose. Beg your permission, then make the decision to call the ambulance. When you say, just hold me, I don't want to go anywhere. Coordinate your doctor appointments, decant your oxygen, humidify room air, uncork your red wine, fluff the pillows under your neck and legs. Keep your feet higher than your heart. Turn you side to side to drain the lung quadrants. Revive you with peppermint lotion on the soles of your feet. Administer sub-Q injections in the early morning wearing a headlamp so you could sleep undisturbed. A butch has the know-how to schmooze with your doctor's secretaries, to bull through red tape circumlocution, when protocols blindfold and spin you with paperwork. A butch will take you to all your doctors and celebrate each day and wait for you to apply your pink lightning lipstick. Stir the oatmeal with the slow wooden spoon. Escort, chauffeur, chef, a butch will stuff your peppers. And butchers do wound care. A butch will walk in front of you when you're coming down the stairs, behind you when you're walking up, on the curbside when you're next to the street, and switch side to side when you're in a parking lot. A butch will hold your hand, tell you you're gorgeous, warm up the car, have a wool lap blanket in your favorite color on the passenger seat, click your seatbelt, scent the car with rose water, play Sinatra, Lady Luck, cruise you all around town. A butcher's car is your private bassinet. And butchers cook and clean as good as any femme. Do windows, white vinegared newspapers crumpled in fist, open doors, garden your pathway, all the purples you love, make chicken soup the way you make it, chop the Holy Trinity, celery, carrots, and onions. Give baths with water the perfect temperature, scrub your head and back. A butch has access to women's bathrooms, but will usher you into the men's room without thinking twice. A butch knows all the shortcuts, drives any kind of vehicle, wheels, wings, sails, motors. Butchers are good with drills, saws, shovels, picks, awls, screwdrivers, hammers, nuts, bolts, needle nose pliers, all kinds of wrenches. Butchers will let you teach them to sew, crochet, knit. A butch will watch The Price is Right with you, keep the conversation light, play cards. A butch will catch you when you fall. Yes, if I was a little old lady, I'd want a butch caregiver. And I'd give my butch time off. A door to close. Her own room. A day to stay under the covers to just cry and feel safe. Caregiver, caretaker. Caretaker's a telling word. There's the one who gives, then there's all the takers. Vultures on the sidelines, ready to swoop down to pick the carcass of the house. The plot, the very nice you built your life on, GNEISS. Antiques, rings, Lionel trains, Hummel statuettes, pennies in tin Band-Aid containers. And a butch comes equipped. Her neon orange belt doubles as a harness to support you when you walk, catch you when you fall, a weapon to keep your attackers at bay, a flag to swing in the air to mark your location, a whip to make a perimeter when you need space to breathe in a crowd. A butch can snap you back to the present moment when you lose your train of thought or attempted to float away. Bottle openers on their keychains, pocket knives, all-in-one tools. Some butchers go further with belt loop, clip-on, brass emergency tracheotomy kits. A butch will open an airway when you can't breathe. You screw the two brass fittings together, wipe a little spit or betadine if you haven't, puncture the cricothyroid cartilage right here, then blow. You should all know where this place is. Susan and Sandy can show you. It's a little piece of cartilage, the puncturing of which will save your life. You feel your Adam's apple, and just below you feel the indentation. This is where you go in. This is where your life will be saved. Hand sanitizer is just the beginning. A butch will break your pills exactly in half. Carry pink pills to settle your nerves, blue pills to lift your spirits, green herbs to open your lungs, sterile oxygen tubing, universal keys to open all oxygen tanks, yellow flu masks for when you're around anyone who coughs, and hard Italian candy to swallow all that'll never be resolved in this lifetime. And butchers do wound care. And a butch will catch you when you fall. Shut off the TV. Yes, death is when you shut off the TV. Stand behind you on your deathbed. Call and sing the Ave Maria. Palms open as your skull portal opens and your soul revs and spirals, the silver helix soul. Soul pull, soul pull, soul pull. Call your name when your last breath is gone. Call your name when your last breath is gone. Through the Bronx, you leave behind. I'm gonna come out here. Buy a beer. Ciao. Tip the pallbearers. Tip the pallbearers and the grave diggers and the priest. Away from the grave, walk last. Hallelujah, souls released. Bow your head when the casket is lowered, then go to the feast. Drink to the dead, to all who have passed. Hallelujah, souls released. Laugh for the skeletons wearing their favorite hats in peace. Pray for those left standing, their hearts' pain vast. Tip the pallbearers and the grave diggers and the priest. Night, say thank you, I'm sorry, I love you, forgive me, please. Applaud setting suns, free souls paint pastel contrast. Hallelujah, souls released. Head impetuous into the wind, pursue caprice. Laugh, cry, love, breathe deep to the last. Tip the pallbearers and the gravediggers and the priest. Hallelujah, souls released. What else you want? Huh? Where are we going? Sloan Kettering, Downton Abbey. Mom's in 519. I'm in 721. This has never happened before. Our doctors and respiratory therapists and friends go up and down the floors to each of us. We needed it. We were taking care of each other, but in a mucus factory for weeks. Putting the pillows out the windows to air out and get sterilized by the sun, cooking chicken soup. The laundry stayed piled in the hallway. The food shopping never got done. I took us in to Sloan Kettering like surrendering at the station house. The bacteria rose in my throat like a tidal wave, pushed me under, not breathing, while others waved to me from the shore. Can't tell you when it started. I'd have to back up and back up and back up again. I mean, I forgive myself for getting sick again, though I can point to, just like my father used to, a shared food or a handshake or a kiss from someone with a cough, something that augmented what he called the battle with my phlegm. I woke up with a closed throat, my neck baked with mucus. I panicked. I went to a local doctor, and he gave me a loading dose of prednisone, 100 milligrams. He said, we gotta pop you open down there. Mom and I were doing hospital and hospice care for each other for months, weeks, years, decades. We were both sick as children. Mom was a cripple and I was a chronic asthmatic. Now we both need to be home on oxygen. My oxygen saturation numbers don't match this claim, but I feel better on oxygen. In the hospital, oxygen's my lullaby. I'm in quarantine, isolation. It's a great way to finally get a room of my own. I love the privacy. I love there's no smells from the other patients or other people's beeping machines. The high-pitched beeping of the monitors drives me crazy. I love the yellow masks and gowns. I love the hierarchy and the gravitas. I love being shielded, and I love being dangerous. The sign on my door reads, droplet precautions. My droplets, my sneeze, my cough contaminate. It's like droplet bullets shoot out my mouth. There's an intimacy in illness that Mom and I share. A slowed downness, a tender care, a need for simple food, bright entertainment, plenty of water. To have Mom and Sloan Kettering at the same time as me feels special. It's the first time in my life I know all our needs are met. We're safe, cherished, watched over in 2 beds. We never had 2 beds. This has never happened. It's always been one on the couch and one in a bed. We're visited by people and wonderful nurses and friends to talk with, and friends bring our favorite things, and the food at Sloan Kettering is the best in the world. The short ribs are like unfriggin' believable. Mom looks so happy. She has her own little room, bed, table, snacks, TV, phone, tissues, oxygen, a nurse call button. She needs all this, and for once, I could get some rest. I'm so calm tonight, knowing Mom is calm and safe and has Nurse Melissa to watch over her and someone to watch over me. I have Nurse Fallon on duty. So, me and Mom are both okay, safe, well-fed, oxygenated, hydrated, medicated. Our electrolytes are balanced, we're rested, we're visited, we're remembered, we're communicated with, we're listened to. We need this on a more regular basis. community, tribe, a healing residence, a place where we're not alone making every decision about our care, where our basic needs are met, where everything's clean, and the relief of a retreat, quiet, and not having any clutter or accumulation to deal with. Marco is the waiter for the floor. Marco caters to me. He brings me my meals, brings me extra muffins and tea, asks me if I want anything extra. Sloan Kettering is our Downton Abbey. Like I said before, the short ribs and the potatoes are the best in New York City. The music therapist can sing the sound of music. The arts and crafts room sends us paints, sewing projects, beads, anything we want. All the art supplies we want. The visiting dogs, the bedside massages, the good company just walking around the halls doing their laps with their IV poles, and the cleaning staff. The cleaning staff puts down their mops and sings gospel to us. We have a jam session with the music therapist. I call our band the Metastatics. My friends come and are focused. They put away their cell phones. I'm having the best time of my life. Pampered, served, a comfortable bed, a bed at all. Being in Sloan Kettering's a luxury. A whole bed for myself and constantly clean sheets. Anything I drop on the floor, they remove and replace and put in a bag marked radioactive or contaminated, it depends. Mom is going to a special cosmetic class for cancer patients. She's thrilled. They wheel her in. She gets free samples of expensive makeup products and a new makeup bag. I go down and see her after the class in her hospital bed. She's fully made up like she's going to the Oscars or something. Her only complaint is that they gave her the lipstick that makes your lips puffy. So she asked to remove that. I think she gave it to you. And she asked for regular lipstick, so they did that for her. I rarely see her this happy as our 2-week retreat in Sloan Kettering. She's glowing. We talk on our cell phones from room to room, floor to floor. On my phone, the digital voice assistant never understands my Bronx accent. So I switched it from English to Italian. So instead of saying, call Memorial Sloan Kettering or call MSKCC, which they never understand, I say, chiama MS Cappuccicci. And the phone capisces me. And also, I bring a smile to myself every time I got a call now, my mother in the hospital. So I call my mother, and we go over the menu, which is renowned. It's 4 or 5 stars. It's like it is hotel food. It's, you know, like a Four Seasons food. It really is. So I'm curious, you know, and she's curious what we're each going to have for dinner. What sides? Roasted zucchini? Snap peas? What dessert? Pie? Pudding? Pound cake? Ice cream? Peaches in the can? Can you turn the page? Thank you. I coach her how to navigate the complicated television system because it's computerized, very hard to figure out. So when Downton Abbey comes on tonight, we're both going to watch at the same time. And we'll talk about it afterwards. Usually we identify with the servants in Downton Abbey, the cooks, the cleaning ladies, but tonight, not tonight, tonight, we both have our feet up and our arms won't hang off the side of the couch into air. The saint of crystalline. I don't know why you said crystalline. Crystalline, no? Anyone know what crystalline is? Rosemary, you know. Rosette. What was it made out of, crystalline?
Crystalline, it's like bleach.
Strong, though, right?
Yeah. It's kind of strong smell.
Strong.
The guy, there was a crystalline man. Yes.
Oh.
Delivered crystalline.
Oh.
That's a crystalline man.
All right, if you want to hear about the crystalline man, ask Rosette later. He came down the street and he just brought crystalline to the houses? What would you put it in? Oh, so he had the containers.
Did you recycle? Probably you gave him back.
The saint of crystalline. Still, she will put her nightgown in the bathroom sink to soak. But she stopped picking up after herself and after me. A plastic cup on the floor stays. A photo of her grandchildren under her desk stays. She stopped moving objects, stopped cleaning dish or fork. This is the point of no return. Elia iacta est. Windowsills are blackening. It's all up to me now. I'm the one who cleans. Every day, she says, I just got to get myself together. By this, she means calm down, dampen the fear that runs like a clock. Air sparkled. I don't know how she did that. Hi, Sylvie. Hi, Wayne. Miraculous disappearance of stains, socks flying in wind, bleached white wings on the line, pocket holes joined, sheets, faces without a wrinkle, coins, pens, gums, retrieved from coat linings, windows bounced sunbeams, the kissing sound of her rubbing window glass into rectangular rinks of light. Wrought iron milk pails, potbelly stove, chair legs, all slick with shine, tubs, sinks, toilet, tile, walls, the maple table. There was a waxed coat, top coat shine on everything. Immaculate holy glow of floors and ceilings. She painted the ceiling in the Bronx with a Q-tip to get in the recesses of the tin ceiling. Meatballs like clockwork every 7th day. But now I see time pile up. Windows spotted, laundry in heaps, the teapot stained belly, dishes, everything piling. The floor dirty in spots, no shine. The side of the fridge with gravy splatter. A brown paper lunch bag under my desk with a month-old banana from teaching a workshop. I got to get on the ball, figure it all out. I wipe the table, but it doesn't shine. I don't know, I need her elbow grease. I don't know how she made every surface bright. And through all of my constant creations of mess, decade after decade, without never one day faltering, not one day did she send the laundry out. Not one day did she order a food delivery. I don't know how she did it, but I do know her ablutions gave constant renewal to all our souls. That's enough. Q&A. We're gonna do a Q&A, and I want to take a head count. Sophia, can you take the count? I reserved a room in Salam Restaurant for 9:30 after we have our reception upstairs. If anyone wants to come, it's reasonably priced food. They say it's Syrian. I don't know. Is it Syrian or Moroccan?
Syrian.
Yeah. Anyways, how many people want to come hang out? Count, Sophia.
I can't see.
All right, who could see? Emily, take count. Audrey not hanging out?
20.
Okay. Yeah, can you call Salam and tell them to set up, listen to me, table in the front? We have the room for 12 in the middle, so we need another 12 in the front. Thank you. Okay, Q&A. Let's take our chairs. Orge, can you strike this thing? And you gotta go. I really want to talk to you. I know what you're. I'm sorry. I love you. All right, Q&A. You all read?
You're very good. You're very good.
Okay, I love you. I love you. Thank you. I love you. Everything is beautiful.
We'll have a private.
Okay. Thank you for doing that.
You know, I think
Okay.
maybe you should start.
No, okay, Q&A. Who's got a question? I love you. Thank you. All right. Who's got a question?
I've got a question.
Yes.
How are you going to sign people's books if we're here doing Q&A?
Afterwards, if otherwise I'll come to your house. Call me and I'll sign your book. What can I tell you?
They have lives. They have lovers. They have...
You want me to leave? I'll leave. You want me to go?
I'm saying we should do this quick.
Does anyone want a question or no questions?
Wait a minute, we have to think about that. We'll think, sit down, relax, we're gonna think of some questions.
Okay.
Who's pouring my tea? Don't worry about them. Yes, Christina.
Can you mention again when you wrote everything that you wrote?
Sure.
When you...
Just hit the button. Thanks. Yeah. Pour me some, please.
There's some pour.
Okay, Christina wants to know when the books were written. So, most of Pitch Roll Yaw was written when I was caregiving. And, could you answer?
Yeah. And Annie wrote Hard Candy when she was still in her third trimester of grief.
It was done by then, yeah.
You wanted to make it as obvious as pregnancy. Trying to give you more poetic answers. Yes.
For each of you guests, I wanted to know if you could say when you first met Annie, and for each of you guests, could please say when you first met Annie, and for Annie, go last, and I want to say, where do you think you got your charisma? First tell us how you met Annie.
Well, I actually did tell you that that Annie and I met about 25 years ago at a conference. We were young, attractive. But her mother was dying. My mother was chronically and acutely ill, 9 lives. The typical Italian mother who had so many things wrong with her. Her mother almost died when she was 2. My mother almost died when she was 7 of scarlet fever. We had a lot to talk about with our mothers, truly. And so there was a bond. And so it wasn't that Annie just came up out of the blue and said, my mother just had this really bad heart surgery. What do you think? We both could have a conversation about the fact that we were always almost losing our mothers and that we had grown up with these stories. I mean, when I was 4, I was petrified at the idea of turning 8. My father's mother died when he was 8, and my mother almost died of scarlet fever when she was 7 or 8. She wasn't sure which, but at any rate, so that's how we met. We met mourning the potential loss of our mothers at a conference.
What kind of conference?
It was a writing for women, IGC something.
Yeah.
International Women something.
I don't know if Annie remembers this. We met, I think it was November of 2005 in Los Angeles at the, what was then called the American Italian Historical Association Conference, now called the Italian American Studies Association. And the conference was in this kind of ratty hotel close to UCLA, but it had a really cool wine cellar space that we were using for panel discussions. And Annie was doing something of a report on the work that she had done with a grant going back 10 years before this in the Arthur Avenue Food Market. And you had handouts, how to cook a heart, pictures of the butcher playing the piano, et cetera, and you were showing video clips of singing and dancing and, you know, just the wonderful teemingness of the market space. And it changed my life. I mean, the charisma, I'll be interested in the answer to this question. I mean, this was the most charismatic person I'd ever been around. And immediately she felt like a sister. I have a sister who's also very charismatic, and I have cousins in and around this area. And the sound of her voice, everything about her just made me feel like we had known each other all our lives.
When I was a kid, the adults didn't cater to kids. So the kids had to get with the program, whatever the adults were doing. So I just hid under the maple table and listened to everything going on in the 60s. My father was very charismatic, and as you can see, so was my mother, and so were my grandparents, and I think all my siblings have charisma. And, you know, I just listened. They didn't say, you know, the life didn't revolve now as it is around the kid's schedule. I didn't have a schedule. I always had nothing to do, always. And that is the source of creativity.
Can I also? All right, go ahead.
So I think maybe okay. I think my favorite part of the book is when you go to the no spoilers, I don't think, but when you go to the art installment or whatever, and it's like the women grieving, and you like join in with them, and it just made me think of like how like grief phobic we are as like a culture, and so. That was one thing, and then also like the coincidences, but I don't think I can fit that into this question. So let me ask you what you asked me at my thesis thing. Where do you think this book like fits in like in conversation with other works about grieving? Because this is the only like time that I've come across like some kind of like public, like as obvious as a pregnancy, like that idea of grieving in public and like grieving publicly. So do you think this work like is in conversation with other works?
That's a great question. Sherman Alexie wrote a book about grieving his mother, and then and Native American culture on the reservation, and then he started his book tour, and then canceled it, and he had a big book tour, because his mother, he said, was appearing and haunting all the book readings. So he said lights would go off, sirens would go. I think he had like, I don't know how, but anyway, he canceled his book tour. And he wrote a big letter to his fans that you could find on the internet and to all the venues. And he just said, I'm sorry, I cannot continue. So I think with that book.
And I think that a number of books that exist on grieving are those horrible how-to books. You know, chicken soup for the grieving. You know, so that I think it's going to really stand out.
Stage 5.
Yeah, right, yes. right. You forgot to, you know, scratch your head on the day 5, so forget it. You have to start over.
You should go upstairs.
I have a question, Annie. First of all, I have to tell people I went to Annie's mother's funeral, but I went to the wrong church. And I waited and waited for like 4 hours, and no one showed up. And then I found out that I was in the wrong church in Tuckahoe. So we tried, right? My question to you, Annie, is when did you start writing songs and lyrics? Was that before you started seriously writing poetry, or was it all part of you at once?
When I was a little girl, I used to walk around singing songs to other little girls, and that's how it all began.
Yes, you had a question.
I don't understand. I thought I knew everything about you. The plane thing. I don't need that. The plane thing.
Oh, then you're recorded. Then you're recorded. Yeah.
The
We're
plane
live.
thing.
We're live.
We're live. The plane. Now roll, pitch. You drive a plane? Have you driven a plane?
Okay, a little lesson in aeronautics.
Fly a plane.
There's 3 axes of movement. Pitch is if the axis is horizontally, let's say through your ears, and this is pitch. Roll is if the axis is through your nose, and this is roll. And yaw is if the axis is coming down like your spine, and this is yaw. So when you're on a motorcycle or a plane, you have to both do yaw and roll to turn. So you're always in a bank turn. You can't just turn a plane with yaw. You need to roll. So anyway.
Have you flown a
Yeah, I got a pilot's license in college after the first cancer. After Sandy Kempin cured me of the Hodgkin's disease, I was like, I gotta go to Egypt, gotta fly a plane, gotta do this, gotta do that.
Gotta have a mustache.
Gotta have a mustache.
Yes. Man back there.
Thank you, Alex, running around with the mic.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Monica.
I and I'm sure a lot of other people in this room are very fortunate to be a recipient of your mentorship. And
Monica took the picture of me when I was naked in zebra paint.
Thank you. Very fortunate to be there as well.
If you download the album, you get the picture.
I wanted to know, why did you want to start mentorship? Why did you want to start mentoring?
To keep learning.
She's keeping the answer short because of the condition of.
Obvious. That's obvious.
That was a good question.
That was a really good
It was a very good question.
Asked and answered.
Let me tell you, many professors would be talking for the next hour and a half.
When I want to learn something, I teach it.
So true.
Other questions?
I'm going to be teaching mambo dance after the party tonight.
How much is a lesson?
You got to buy tickets from Sophia in the lobby. Okay, 2 more questions. Then we're going to have an auction and a raffle, so get tickets from Sophia. All right, 2 more.
Yes.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, Jazz.
I just wanted to know, because it seemed like you had a very special relationship with your mother. What's like the truest lesson that you took from her?
Never argue with a jackass.
Love it.
I did an album with that title. You could download it. And also I have bumper stickers upstairs for $3. Never argue with a jackass.
Can I also add, or maybe actually John wants to add because it's in pitch, the one wonderful prose piece that you have on, you think my relationship with my mother is so special. You could do this too. There's about 3 pages that talks about all the stuff you have to do to have that special kind of relationship.
You got to make it special, and we did the work. It wasn't just inherently different. Thank you.
One final question.
Joe, you got something to say?
Let people go upstairs and buy your stuff.
Okay, thank you. Sophia's going to do the auction upstairs and raffle tickets. And we're selling books and CDs and everything. I love you. Thank you.